Robinhood has just crossed $100 billion market cap. It 5.5x'd its stock in the last year. It is one of the hottest companies in fintech, and I sat down with the VP of product behind it all, Abhishek Fatehpuria.
Robinhood Cortex is an AI assistant. We bring together news, research reports, how trading is happening on Robinhood, and SEC filings to help customers make sense of it. US stocks are still a lot of the envy of investors around the world. You ask your average person in an international country what company they want to invest in. Very, very frequently, they're going to say Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, and those are all US companies.
So there have been tons of other amazing IPOs that's pretty much the only way for the retail investor to get access. Yeah. And I believe that's one of your products. So tell me the story about that.
The mission's very broad to democratize finance for all. And that to a lot of us means everything. We're expanding into credit cards and banking. Vlad wants to be in every country in the world over time.
Wow.
We're starting to roll it out for stocks. We've got some pretty cool stuff coming up as well for it.
Really quickly, I think a crazy stat is that more than 50% of you listening are not subscribed. If you can subscribe on YouTube, follow on Apple or Spotify podcasts, my commitment to you is that we'll continue to make this content better and better. And now on to today's episode. Abhishek, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm excited.
So your latest launch, an AI assistant. Tell me about this. What can it do?
Yeah. So Robinhood Cortex is an AI assistant designed to help with your investing. So we started with a few things. So the first thing we started with was what we call stock digest. So one thing we really wanted to do when we took a step back is fit the AI into the customer's existing workflows. And one thing we learned when we talk to customers, it's a very universal problem, is you get this push notification from Robinhood, stocks moved 5% up or down, you open the stock, you see the chart, and the first question you have is why did it move? And the first goal of the feature is just to help customers figure out why it's moving. So we bring together news, research reports, how trading is happening on Robinhood, and SEC filings to help customers make sense of it. So we're starting to roll it out for stocks. We're bringing it to crypto pretty soon. But the idea is to just help customers invest in their existing workflows. And we've got some pretty cool stuff coming up as well for it.
So building products with AI in fintech, it seems like a hazy area, an area where you want to be really sensitive. What were the key things you guys thought about as guardrails or these are some restrictions around building this product?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard in fintech, you have a lot of regulatory constraints. You're dealing with people's actual money, so you need a high degree of trust. So I think the first thing that we started is what data do we want going into the AI? So we curate almost all of the data that's going in. We secure licenses with the news providers we're using. We're getting research reports. We're using our own market data on the pricing we're getting directly from the exchanges. And so we're spending a lot of time curating upstream what data is going into the AI. And then we're spending a lot of time figuring out how to prompt it and how to coach it to not make mistakes and to not make recommendations and really be an informational tool for investors. But I think the thing I'm excited about is we're figuring out how to make it work in a regulated landscape, which should help us do a lot more in the future.
So it sounds like you were very careful to point out that it doesn't make recommendations. Is that one of the important elements, being a brokerage and those kind of things?
Right now, yes. In the future, we want to be able to do stuff like advisory and recommendations, potentially with AI. But right now, it's really a tool designed to help customers make their own investment decisions.
And how'd you guys decide this sequencing?
The bar's a lot higher for recommendations. You have to be really, really careful. You have to consider their existing portfolios. You have to consider all sorts of other data. So where we thought it would be best to start is most of our customers come to Robinhood to make their own investment decisions. So
Yeah.
how do we aid that process? And the early feedback's been awesome.
Okay. So is it safe to say that I can make more money if I start to use more AI tools like this to improve my information digest?
I don't think that's necessarily true. I mean, ultimately, you have to do your own research and make your own decisions. Our goal is to sort of optimize your workflow. So the thing that we notice a lot of people do is they read a lot of news, or they read news and then they read research and then they look at analyst upgrades. So how do we condense that process and optimize it and make it faster?
And what did it look like in terms of the product development steps for building this AI feature? Like, how long have you guys been working on this? What type of discovery did you do? What type of solutions did you explore?
Yeah. I mean, so back in March, we announced Robinhood Cortex. We sort of demoed two features. So one was the digest I told you about, and the second was a trade builder that helps you sort of understand potential price targets for a stock, different types of analyses, and then helps you screen the market for potential trades based off of your hypothesis. So I think our approach was generally like, we don't want to build AI products for the sake of building AI products. We want it to fit into problems we know customers already have. So I mean, so we basically looked through all of our research and we're like, what are the problems that people have that AI could help solve? So the first one was help me understand why a stock is moving up or down.
Yep.
It's a really, really fundamental question that almost every investor has. And actually, funny enough, even in internal meetings, sometimes we're like looking at a stock and someone's just like, what's Cortex say today about it? So it's honestly like been useful to us as well. And the second one was helping customers construct trades. So a customer will come into the app and they'll be like, hey, I think this stock's going to go up or going to go down. But then they don't know how to turn that hypothesis of theirs into like an actual trade. Or they don't know like, hey, I could buy the stock, but what if I wanted to trade options? How would my opinion map to a trade? So those were two problems we identified pretty early, and we designed the products around those.
Okay. If you had to generalize advice for Fintech PMs building AI products, what would it be?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I think the first thing is like I think you have to understand what's like possible given the technology. And then you need to like really understand the regulatory landscape you're working in. Because if you don't understand that landscape, you're going to go to your legal partners or whoever else, and they're going to think you're kind of crazy. So I think you have to really become like, really understand what can be done with the tech, and then also become like a reasonable expert in like what's possible from a regulatory perspective. And then I think the third thing is be patient. Like, it's okay if you have this like large vision that will manifest over a couple of years, which we do, but like it's okay to start small, like, and build comfort. You know, one thing that we learned a lot from customers too is that, you know, they don't always trust an AI when it comes to like their money. So even for them, like doing little steps and incrementing all the way there, it's best for you as the product team. It's best for your legal counterparts explaining this to regulators. And sometimes it's best for customers.
I want to move on to another product of yours that's pretty exciting, which is, well, I want you to explain it actually, because all of us have seen these images of Vlad Tenev, your CEO, presenting at Cannes. What is it that he presented?
Well, it's not my product. I think the crypto team has done an incredible job with it. But we announced tokenization earlier this summer in Cannes, and basically announced two products with it. First was stock tokens, which is basically taking sort of what the stable coins did for the US dollar, but doing that for US stocks. So building the rails to tokenize stocks outside of the US. Ultimately, US stocks are still a lot of the envy of investors around the world. You ask your average person in an international country what company they want to invest in, more often than not, they'll either mention a local company, but very, very frequently, they're going to say the companies you and I love, like Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, or whatever. And those are all US companies. And it's actually pretty hard for them to access it. So if you think about what the stable coins did for the US dollar, which is make it really accessible to get dollars overseas, these stock tokens sort of make US stocks much more accessible overseas. The second thing we talked a lot about was private stocks and tokenizing them. And I think to a certain degree, it's almost, I think the reason why so many people were talking about them is sort of independent of the tokenized aspect of it. It's that so many of the valuable companies nowadays choose to stay private for longer. So retail investors can't get in, they can't participate. And I think we really tapped into this latent demand for I want to invest in these private companies. I'm using ChatGPT every day. Why can't I invest in OpenAI? So I think that the private company aspect, I think we actually almost tapped into something else, which was people really want to invest in these private companies. Yeah.
So the other product, talking about giving access to retail investors that you guys are really well known for, is IPO access, right?
Yeah.
Most recently, you guys let thousands, I don't know if you've disclosed the number, but many, many people of my friends in my network, so I know it's thousands of people, get access to the Figma IPO. There have been tons of other amazing IPOs that it's pretty much the only way for the retail investor to get access. And I believe that's one of your products. So tell me the story about that.
Yeah. We launched IPO access in 2021, in May of 2021. We started working on it in late 2020. And it was sort of around the time we started thinking about going public ourselves. And I think part of the place where it started was we're really the home of retail investing. How do we give our customers access to our own IPO? And we sort of turned that into a product. So we've done a lot of IPOs since then, but basically the way that it works is we're part of what's called the selling group as part of the IPO. We can collect demand after a company submits a prospectus. So we're collecting orders. So while the company is doing the roadshow and the bankers are collecting institutional orders, we're collecting orders from retail customers, and we're sharing the demand data with the bankers for that stock or the underwriters. And then the night of the IPO, they basically tell us how many shares does the Robinhood retail base get? And then we allocate that to our customers who requested stock. Now, very frequently, we don't get access to as many shares that customers requested. So we do our best, but it's something that a lot of people didn't have access to before. And even other brokerages that did, they tended to reserve this product for high net worth customers or their most valuable customers. So it was really hard for the average retail customer to get access.
Today's episode is brought to you by the experimentation platform Kameleoon. 9 out of 10 companies that see themselves as industry leaders and expect to grow this year say experimentation is critical to their business. But most companies still fail at it. Why? Because most experiments require too much developer involvement. Kameleoon handles experimentation differently. It enables product and growth teams to create and test prototypes in minutes with prompt-based experimentation. You describe what you want, Kameleoon builds a variation of your web page, lets you target a cohort of users, choose KPIs, and runs the experiment for you. Prompt-based experimentation makes what used to take days of developer time turn into minutes. Try prompt-based experimentation on your own web apps. Visit kameleoon.com/prompt to join the waitlist. That's KAMELEOON.com/prompt. Before we dive deeper, let's talk about something every PM faces: getting alignment on product decisions. You know that feeling when you're trying to explain a user flow to engineering or justify a design choice to leadership and you're just describing it with your hands? That's where Mobbin comes in. Mobbin is the world's largest library of real-world mobile and web app designs from industry-leading apps like Airbnb, Uber, and Pinterest. Instead of spending hours taking screenshots or hunting for inspiration, you can instantly find exactly how successful products handle onboarding, paywalls, checkout flows, whatever you're facing. Over 1.7 million product builders use Mobbin to benchmark against best-in-class products and show their teams proven solutions. Whether you need to convince stakeholders there's a better way to handle user activation or research how top apps approach feature discovery, Mobbin gives you the visual proof to back up your product decisions. Check out mobbin.com/Aakash. That's mobbin.com/AAKASH and get 20% off your first year. And I think you guys are just an engine of products like these, whether it was fractionalized stocks before that, or even just giving buyers with the initial inception of the app an easy way to sell in one click. If you try to sell at your big bank, if you're keeping your stocks there, it's like 20 clicks just to sell. So that's like then the history of Robinhood. What is it about you guys? How can somebody else who's trying to reverse engineer it from the outside kind of understand the DNA of building these innovative products in a regulated industry?
Yeah, I think our general approach to any new product is we want to give the most value back to customers and we want to have the best experience. And that's kind of our recipe. You can't have, we rarely ship a product that only has one of those. So whenever we're talking about like a net new product, it's like, how do we give the most value back to customers? Still in a profitable way for us, but in a way that really, really benefits customers. And then how do we build a delightful experience? And that recipe has worked really well for us. One thing that I like to do when we start new products is, one thing that's unique about the financial space is that it's very rare to like invent a new product. I use this example with retirement accounts all the time. Like Robinhood didn't invent IRAs or Roth IRAs. Like they kind of are what they are. It's a regulatory thing. It's legislated. So the challenge that we put in front of our PMs and our team is like, okay, so we're building IRAs. You can't really change the rules of the road behind an IRA, but what are like 3 or 4 things that our IRA is going to do infinitely better than any other IRA out there? So we have these like constraints by default because the products are what they are regulatorily, and then we have to sort of push the boundaries from within. So one exercise I love is whenever we launch a new product in the app, we have these things called swipies. They're like these little 4 screens that tell the customer what the product is. And I love just writing, what are the swipies for this product going to be before we build anything? Because it forces you to like succinctly summarize the product to a customer in like 4 small sentences. So I think that exercise has worked well for us.
The swipies are the full screen takeovers, right? They have like an animation and a little text, one sentence.
Yeah, it's usually like an animation, gorgeous illustration that our design team does, like a little bit of text explaining the product, and you can like swipe through them, and there's usually like 3 or 4 for any given product.
So it's kind of like Amazon's working backwards, but from a swipey point of view.
Yeah. I mean, we were a mobile first company, so like we think in like mobile screens.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can't convince a customer to hit the get started button in like one sentence, we don't have a great product.
Yeah.
That's kind of the bar we try to hold.
So IPO access, like, let's break that down in detail even further, right? We got the timeline, we got the high level.
Yeah.
What were the evolutions of the product along the way before the final version that people got to see?
Yeah. It comes back to the few things, which was like the swipies. Like, how do we talk about this product? It feels so obvious now, but like, we took so long to get to the tag phrase, like, get in at the IPO price, because like, investors weren't really used to participating in IPOs. So like, they didn't fully understand what like IPO access like meant. So we had to like succinctly in like 5 lines explain like, what is it that this product is going to give you. And one pain that we felt customers always express with this is like, they see the chart. They're like, the stock seems to have opened at 20, but it seems like it started trading at like 50. Like, who got access at this like $20 mark? So the tag phrase we sort of landed on at the time was get in at the IPO price. It like spoke to the pain people felt versus like speaking to like this. It was like the classic like painkiller versus like vitamin phrasing of the product. And then the second thing was like, how do we make like getting a share part of this IPO like a really memorable experience, like something that you emotionally connect to. And the team put together this gorgeous like animation of when you receive these shares, like this hot air balloon goes in the sky and you get like this stock certificate that shows you like you were the nth investor in whatever company. So we like really just dialed in the details of the experience.
And those things, like those animations, why isn't every other brokerage doing things like that?
I think it comes down to like what you value. I think ever since day one, we pay so close attention to the pixels and like to the experience, and just not a lot of other brokerages do. And it's infused in the DNA of the company. Like, Vlad spends a lot of time with the pixels. Like, I spend a lot of time with the pixels. Like, everyone, it's not just like the design team is making these beautiful designs. It's like a lot of the entire company really thinking about how do we craft the best experience. I haven't worked at other brokers, but I would imagine that the CEO of the company or like the leaders of the companies at other brokerages aren't spending a large share of their time thinking about how are we going to make this experience feel great? What's the animation going to be? So I think it's like, it's infused into the DNA of the company in a lot of ways.
And then I guess your harshest critics, they would say, well, that's actually a good thing that those other companies, are putting up walls because you shouldn't really trade often.
Yeah.
People who trade a lot lose a lot of money. The average retail investor is not beating the S&P 500. How do you guys kind of grapple with that?
Yeah, I mean, for IPO access, for example, I would argue that having the ability and having the option to invest in an IPO for a company that you've personally been using for such a long time is a really valuable like option to have. So I think our general principle is like, people should have access and great design. Like, you shouldn't use bad design as a way to like keep people out or like high guardrails or high walls. Like, we like as a company like deeply believe that people should have access to the financial tools that they need to be successful. And I think historically, people have said like, you need like this much money to participate. And in a lot of ways, I don't, especially with the internet and people having more access to information, I don't know if like net worth is like necessarily correlated with like sophistication.
Yeah.
So I think some of the old constructs around like how do people like qualify for certain products, or how are they eligible for certain products, don't make that much sense anymore.
And I think having been a PM in fintech myself, sometimes, the PMs on my team, sure, we're coming up with great ideas that do remove friction. But then what ends up happening is like death by 1,000 departments. The legal team comes in and they say, oh, we need to add this line here and it needs to be visible right under the CTA. And then the privacy team comes in and says, oh, we need to add this step. And then, the KYC legal team, another legal team comes, and all of a sudden, after 25 departments have it, your product is a total Frankenstein. But Robinhood's products somehow, they don't fall into that trap. Is it something like, is it Vlad at the top just pushing all the teams? Is it a culture where the type of people you're hiring in those departments aren't putting up those roadblocks? How do we dissect that?
Yeah, I think we've got an incredible legal team and compliance team. And I think a lot of it starts at like, they're so deeply like experts in this space. Like a number of them worked at the SEC. A number of them have worked as regulators, or they've worked in this space before. They've worked at other BDs or broker dealers. So they're so familiar and they're such deep domain experts in these problems that they're actually very effective at solving the problem and getting to a really, really good product solution. So, I mean, I love our legal partners. So many of them, like, they get excited about the product and they want to find ways to like build the best experience for customers. So I think some of it comes down to culture. Sometimes when there's disagreements, I mean, obviously we escalate, and sometimes, they're the ones pushing, like, how do we make this a better product? So it's like infused into the culture and who you hire. And, our chief legal officer's done an incredible job building like a really, really like expert team there.
AI evals are one of the most important skills for PMs. And I know they matter. The question is, are you doing them right? Most teams are winging it with basic metrics and hoping for the best. Meanwhile, the teams that actually ship reliable AI, they've cracked the code on systematic evaluation. Today's episode is brought to you by the AI Evals for Engineers and PMs course by Hamal Hussain and Shreya Shankar. This live Maven course will teach you the battle-tested frameworks from Hamal and Shreya, who are the engineers behind GitHub Copilot's evaluation system and 25 plus production AI implementations. 4 weeks, live instruction. Next cohort starts July 21st. Start shipping AI that actually works. Enroll at maven.com with my code AG-product-growth for over $800 off. That's AG-PRODUCT-GROWTH. Today's episode is brought to you by Amplitude. Replays of mobile user engagement are critical to building better products and experiences. But many session replay tools don't capture the full picture. Some tools take screenshots every second, leading to choppy replays and high storage costs from enormous capture sizes. Others use wireframes, but key moments go missing, creating gaps in your understanding. Neither approach gives you a truly mobile experience. Amplitude does things differently. Their mobile replays capture the full experience. Every tap, every scroll, and every gesture, with no lag and no performance hit. It's the most accurate way to understand mobile behavior. See the full story with Amplitude. When you're coaching your own PMs about working with legal, what do you tell them?
I tell them, I think the biggest thing is you have to assume good intent. Like, they're not there to make the product worse. Like, they have a role to play. Their job is to make sure that we are safely shipping the products we want to ship in accordance with the regulations. So it's like you have to start with good intent. I think the second thing is you want to make everyone on the team, regardless of what function they're in, buy in to the vision of the product. When you have a legal partner or a compliance partner who's bought into the vision of the product, the outcomes of that product are so much better than if they don't believe in the product in the first place. Mm-hmm. So like in the same way that you get buy-in from the engineers or the designers, got to get like buy-in from the legal team that the thing you're building is going to be awesome. And that leads to great outcomes. And I think the third is like to actually like deeply understand the issues that the legal team is bringing to you, and actually understand like what's the rule, like what is the issue that we're trying to solve. If you become an expert in it and you empathize with it, you'll find that most of the time there's a reasonable solution to it. And you know, it's like 10% of the time it's like black and white, and then like 90% of the time you're dealing in gray areas. So you want to like empathize, you want them to buy into the vision, and then you find usually a good solution.
So you joined Robinhood in 2016. Quite a long time. What stands out to you? You know, revenue, people, culture. How has this company scaled?
I think the thing that convinced me to join was the people. I mean, the talent density at the company, even when it was at the stage of post product market fit, but pre like serious revenue, was insane. And I felt like I was learning all the time. And I felt like that was the type of environment I really wanted to be in. So that's what attracted me in a lot of ways. That's like what's kept me. I think the second thing is this like laser focus on building like the best product. I think Robinhood is a great example of like great products tend to win in the market. Great products with great distribution win in the market. And it's not just about like being first, or like being first to market doesn't always matter. Like we spend a lot of time crafting the product, paying attention to the details, and that makes a huge difference. And that's the type of place I wanted to work. And then the last thing is, I mean, the ambitions of the company are insane. The mission's very broad, to democratize finance for all. And that, to a lot of us, means like everything. We're expanding into credit cards and banking. You know, Vlad wants to be in every country in the world over time.
Wow.
So I think like the mission is so broad, and there's like no end to the types of things we can do. So the one thing that I reflect on is after 9 months, it always feels like my job is somewhat different. So it keeps it fresh.
That's crazy. Yeah. So what are all those products?
I mean, you have stock trading, you have options, you have crypto, you've got margin, securities lending. What else?
Robinhood Gold, maybe?
Robinhood Gold. Yeah, that's a good one. But...
So we're not stock market experts. This is not financial advice, but how would you break down the elements of why your guys' stock has had this phenomenal 5.5xing the past year?
Oh, I mean, I don't want to speculate on that, and I'm not sure I'm supposed to speculate on that. But I mean, you see the metrics online, the same that we have when we publish quarterlies. The revenue's been really strong. I think we have figured out how to sustainably really grow assets on the platform. Ever since we launched retirement with the match, that's been a very effective strategy for us. And then I think the thing that I'm most proud of, and that, you know, we love to talk a lot about, is product velocity. I think that's the hardest thing to like think about when you're like just analyzing a stock. Like Robinhood, like our teams are so focused. It seems like we ship some stuff every week at this point. So I think the product velocity to me is like the most impressive thing when I look back at it.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think it's that combination of you're proving it in the metrics.
Yeah.
But then there's all this potential we see with what you're shipping just regularly, and it's always coming out faster and faster. And so that's a really incredible. How does it feel to pass 100 billion in market cap?
You know, I don't really think about it. I'm like, I'm like so we have this we have our next keynote coming up in a month. So I'm like so focused on that I haven't really even been thinking about the stock price and the market cap, you know. To me those are like it's a little bit, I mean, I check it and stuff, but I don't really process it as much. Yeah.
It's just a distraction. It just keeps going up and down.
I mean, it's hard to ignore because our app is literally about stocks, and the thing I test every day is literally about stocks. So it's hard to ignore, but I try to ignore it as much as possible. And especially right now, while we're like focused on Hood Summit in a month, I'm like so laser focused on that.
Life as a product leader, right? Yeah. It's like the next big release.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the events have been like also game changing.
I think so. Yeah.
Have you watched them?
I'm just watching how much social attention they're getting over time, you know? I think like 4 or 5 years ago, I wouldn't have heard about a product launch from you guys. Now it's every 2 or 3 months, you guys dominate my X timeline.
That's actually something I was very surprised by. That worked really, really well for us, which was these like product events. We started in March of last year. That was our first one.
Nice.
We did the gold event, the first gold event.
Okay.
And we've done like a few since then.
And if people don't know, that's Robinhood Gold, which gives you like, I think 3% cash back, which is more than like any other card, right?
That's the credit card.
Yeah.
3% cash back.
Yeah.
It's a great card.
Yeah.
I use it personally. So, but yeah, that's the one thing that I think has been really effective for our product growth has been these events. And it's actually also been amazing for the organization because having an event to point an entire team towards where it's like we are shipping and delivering these 4 or 5 things, it's clarifying. It creates a lot of focus. Yeah.
So you smashed 100 billion. You went through another really emotional moment when you guys IPO'd. What was that like? Oh,
that was one of the most memorable moments of my life. Yeah, it was really fun. I mean, I was in New York for the most of that week, and you know, we got to go to the NASDAQ. We did like an event there in the morning, went out to Times Square. It was like it was like a big milestone moment for the company. And it was just awesome. Like so many of the team came out, despite it sort of being COVID lockdown, still a lot of people made it out. So it was great. It was very, very like rewarding to be a part of that.
Must have been crazy, like after all those hard years of work, seeing that outcome.
Yeah, especially like 2020 and 2021 was particularly crazy for us. So that was like a great bookend to all of that.
Yeah, you guys were in the news all the time, whether it was meme stocks or GameStop or so many things. That's crazy. Speaking about that, I think at that period, that's when there was the most, controversy about Robinhood. What's one thing outsiders completely misunderstand about Robinhood's success?
In that period or in general?
In general.
Oh, misunderstand about Robinhood's success. I don't know. I think we went through like a big low point in our brand in 2021, and everyone thought we were like not like we had like bad intentions and stuff. And I think that was a particularly tough period to be like an employee because like, we were all there. I mean, we like to think we have good intentions. We are trying to make access to products that have historically been gated away from people. So I think that period was particularly tough, but very rewarding to like make it out the other end.
And did Robinhood have to go through like one of those tech shrinkages? Did you guys have a layoff? I think I heard about that.
We did in 2022. Yeah.
Those are also very tough.
Yeah. Yeah. The period of, that whole period was like a really tough time at the company. But, I think so many learnings from that whole like COVID plus 2022 experience. So
Yeah.
I feel like I grew a lot.
Yeah. So now we've come to the topic that all my listeners, when I told them I was interviewing you, they said I had to ask you about, which is how you guys build products.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there has been any information on the internet anywhere. This is going to be new information for everyone. Like, what does the Robinhood product team look like? How is it structured to start?
So we are in GMs. So we're sort of structured into like 3 big business units, call it brokerage, crypto, money, which is the credit card and banking and stuff. I hope I'm not missing something. And then within those, sometimes we have like sub businesses like the futures business or international and stuff. And sort of each business unit has a product team. So I work on the product team for brokerage. So that's sort of how we're structured today at a high level. And then, we have design and engineering. We made the switch to GMs from like functional actually around the time that we did our reduction in force in 2022. And, I think it was just amazing for the company because, you were asking about like working with legal and stuff, but it brought a lot of functions like product, engineering, operations, compliance, all under the same like org. Not legal still separate, but it brought all of those functions under the same org for each business, gave them like some shared goals and some shared purpose. And that made a big difference. Suddenly felt like everyone was rowing in the same direction.
What was the implication for life as a PM? Did it mean that you might be working on more of a wider platform team and now all of a sudden you're working on a very specific product? Did it mean that the nature of your metrics changed? How did it change your job?
For me personally or for the team?
For PMs at large.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think the biggest impact was probably more on the like cultural side of the PM team. Like when we were one big PM team, there was a really tight unit. People hung out a lot and people spent a lot of time together. And there was a lot more like product team, call it like camaraderie. And when you like split it to like product team for brokerage, product team for crypto, etc., we definitely lost some of that connectivity of like one single big product team. As for the day-to-day work, I think the other big shift was like, and I think a lot of our PMs already did this, but really not just thinking about the product, but also thinking about the business and connecting it to the business. And in a lot of ways, sort of starting to push a lot of our PMs to think more like GMs for their businesses and for the products that they work on, which I thought was a great change personally. So I think those were probably the 2 big changes. I don't think the day-to-day changed that much apart from that.
So how big is the PM team today? How big is the engineering team?
Brokerage all in is around, I want to say around 25 to 30 PMs, to about maybe a little bit less, to about 250 engineers in brokerage. I want to say.
Okay.
And that probably kind of like scales appropriately. Brokerage is the largest like org in the company. So that's sort of where we are.
Okay. So it's like a 1 to 10 PM to
a little
engineer
bit.
ratio.
I think it depends on the function. So like something like options, much more niche, much more like complex domain, a little bit lower. Some of the domains that are more complicated, probably closer to 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you guys handle planning?
Oh man, we change planning every year, but it gets better. I think what we try to do is, and there's no perfect way to do planning, as I'm sure you know. We try to align on, I think so first starting at a leadership level, we try to align on like what are our big bets for next year and what are some like ideal targets for metrics. So say like last year it was like we want to ship this desktop web product, and then we also want to grow this mature business by like X%. So we'll try to align on that at a leadership level. One tweak I'm trying to make now with our team and the company at large we're trying to make is, now that we do these product keynotes, instead of just being like what are our big bets, it's more like what's going to be in the keynote. Like let's plan the tentative keynote like now. And that sort of substitutes for like the big bets. After that, after we have the big bets and rough metrics targets, sort of let the individual teams cook on plans to achieve those goals. For the big bets, it's typically a conversation around like, what is it going to take? Do we need to add more people to the team? Do we like reorient some of the org to make it happen? For stuff like grow this mature business by X%, it's like the team comes back with a plan for it and then we review it together. So I think it depends a little bit. I think the big change I'm hoping to make is, let's just plan these keynotes like 9 to 12 months in advance so we know what we're trying to deliver.
And some companies, actually every company I've worked at planning, they have like certain units that they really care about. So at a firm, it was like GMV. Like that's the unit that we're looking at almost everything through the lens of how is it driving GMV. Or when I was at Apollo.io, it's like incremental ARR is what we really cared about, or net revenue retention, depending on the phase that we were talking about. So do you guys do something like that? Like how do you guys think about, what are the things you pay most attention to in this planning process?
Yeah. So we sort of have three like strategic arcs to the business. So the first is to be number one for active traders. So the key metrics we look at for that are like market share along our key businesses. One challenge that we have is that our business is very dependent on the market. So it's very hard to be like, hey, we want to set these like volume goals because something happens in the market, you may just blow past it, you may not hit it. So we look at market share. The second strategic arc is number one in wallet share for millennials or the next generation. Millennials and Gen Z, and soon to be Gen Alpha, hopefully. For that, we tend to look at like net deposits, like are people depositing more money into the platform, and we look at gold subscriptions. The last is global financial ecosystem, which is sort of international, where we sort of look at how many international customers do we have. That is at its most nascent stage. Number one in active traders is probably the most mature of those three. So we have a fairly diverse business, so that means sort of looking at a lot of metrics, but it's worked for us so far.
And then where does like responsibility allocation go? Do you guys use OKRs for that? How do you handle that?
Yeah, we don't use OKRs necessarily. We have like goals. They're like functionally OKRs. They're just like simpler. Typically like either a goal will be qualitative, like ship XYZ by this event, and that's typically for like the big projects. or you'll have grow net deposits by like this much. So they're not as like complicated as the OKRs. We had OKRs at some point, and sometimes we just ended up debating the difference between an objective and a key result.
Always.
And it was just like, why are we doing this? Like the goal is the goal. So we just simplified it.
Yeah, and sometimes you don't always have a key result, and in that case, are you gonna formulate and fabricate one, or and so just goals? Okay.
Yeah, it's just goals. It's really simple. We like grade them we like trend them, we grade them, we see how we're doing, we hold ourselves accountable to them, and then we like refresh them quarterly.
How are you asking your PMs and other people in the EPD trio to use AI at work?
Yeah, we're still, I think for PM, and we're still pushing this a lot more, I think are two things. One is like almost like ideation and discovery and research. Like I personally use it all the time to be like, here's a product problem we're trying to solve. Here are like 2 or 3 ideas I have. Can you hit me with like 10 more ideas? Usually pretty high noise, but sometimes you'll find like a gem in there, and it's pretty low cost sort of trial and error. There's that. The second thing that we use it a lot for is like when we're evaluating a new opportunity to like learn about the space. So let's say hypothetically before IPO access, we were like, hey, I want to like learn all about IPOs. Like that's a great tool to have. So I think it's really helpful in like the early stages of product development and ideation. That's where I've personally and the team has found the most value sometimes. And then I think the second category is like automating and reducing the toil of like some of the like manual administrative work around PM. Like sometimes you're just writing content for something and you need to like replicate 10 different messages. You just make that fast. So I think early stage product development, it's a super helpful tool. Late stage, or like day-to-day operations, just helping with your own efficiency. I'm not sure it's like quite there yet in like helping write a whole PRD or something. I don't think you're gonna get like keen insight from it.
And what's your take on the PRD actually? These days, a lot of people are talking about how AI prototypes should just replace the PRD.
So I think in fintech, it's hard because sometimes the PRD covers so much of the like detail behind a product, like here are the rules and the regs, and here are the edge cases we need to capture. So I don't think you can ever effectively like get rid of it.
Yeah.
But I will say, and for a long time, I don't like personally doing product reviews with like PRDs. I find them to be not that like high signal on like, are we going to build a good product? So I typically try to avoid doing like a live product review with someone on my team until we have some semblance of either the swipies to talk about like value props, or we have an actual mock or prototype, because ultimately it's like, I'm going to experience the product. Like our customers are not going to get to read your beautiful PRD to understand why they should use this thing. So why should I, as the reviewer, get that assistance, So.
And are you guys using AI prototyping tools?
Not that much, honestly, right now. I mean, we're using it a lot in like engineering and stuff. The engineering team uses all the AI tools, but not as much in like prototyping. I'm excited to see what we can do with like early stage design and stuff.
So you've hired a lot of PMs who haven't worked at Robinhood, even though you've worked entirely at Robinhood. What do you find as like those things that they're finding, oh, this is different about how Robinhood builds product.
Yeah. Oh, I've had a lot of conversations about this. I think the attention to detail in the pixels that is expected by a PM at Robinhood is very, very high. Like I've had people join my team and they're doing super well now, but like going from outside to inside and being like, oh, like I have to like pay attention to like these level of pixels in the product and push the team to get to this degree of polish is typically a pretty big shock to people, and it's an adjustment that people have to make. But that's what makes our product like special. So it's something we've really tried to protect. But I've also heard that everyone loves it after some time. Like it's very painful at the beginning. You might have something like get delayed because you didn't like pick up on something, and then someone went in, was like, this doesn't feel right, we're not shipping, like fix it first. So it's like painful at first, maybe for new people, but I've never really had someone on my team come to me like a year down the road and be like, I'm like frustrated at the level of detail that is expected of me in the product, because ultimately I feel like they feel prouder of what they're shipping because of it. So that's usually, I think, the biggest adjustment.
And all the PMs are going to be raising their finger and saying, but, Abhishek, what if I don't work at a company where design is so open to me just being in the pixels? What is the right way to work with design?
I think you need to establish trust. I mean, I think it's, and what I mean in the pixels, it's not just in like Figma. It's like also like once it's been built, like using it, tearing it down, making sure the product feels great. Like ultimately what I hold the product team accountable to is like, did we ship a great product that had impact? So if it's not good, or it doesn't feel polished, or it doesn't feel like it's up to the bar, they should feel accountable for that. And I think on the design stuff, it just comes to a high degree of trust between the teams. And it's like asking questions. It's like, hey, is this the right way to do it? Or did we miss something? It's not like going in there and editing it yourself.
Yeah. So it's about collaborating in the right way also, and not stepping over their line that's their responsibility. But like you said at the beginning, first inspiring them with the vision and then giving them the feedback after they give that first draft.
And oftentimes, what I notice is like the polish and the nitty gritty detail is typically more like, I've got the product in hand, I'm using it, but it just like, it feels off, or like certain things aren't fully right yet. And it just comes down to like intensely using it and being like, what feels wrong? And sometimes it's like, we just didn't catch this thing when we were designing.
So do you guys have a pretty long period? Like I can remember times that I've never even as a PM touched the final version of the product because maybe there were some build issues getting me the production version of the app and how it looks outside of a sandbox environment. Do you guys make sure that like everybody internally is using the product for some period of time before you ship it?
We tend to dog food a good amount internally. I mean, the length depends on the product.
Yeah.
So for something huge like retirement, we were using that for longer internally. For something smaller, the internal time isn't that long. But it's not unusual for, stuff to hit internal and then we're like, hey, this isn't quite ready yet. Let's take an extra 1 to 2 weeks and make it feel really dialed in. And I think the best part is a lot of our company are actually users of our product. They use it all the time. So you kind of get to a naturally high bar just with internal feedback. Yeah.
So within the product team, you guys launched an APM program.
Yeah.
How's that going?
It's new. I mean, they joined like I want to say like a month ago now. So it might be too early. Too early to say. But I'm really excited about it. I mean, we have 2 APMs on my team. They both seem awesome. And they're both they're kind of working on like very different things, which is going to be interesting. It's almost like an A/B test for like what is the right type of project to have an APM work on. One of them is working on like smaller scale but like rapid product improvements to like our desktop product, and then one of them's working on like working with another one of our PMs on like a larger scale, like 9-month project. So we'll see which one works better. But I'm really optimistic about it. I joined Robinhood as a new grad. The early hiring philosophy was a lot of new grads at the company. So I feel like it's kind of going back to our roots.
Yeah, it's like the DNA of the company.
Yeah. So I'm really excited. I'm really pumped about it.
What was your story of breaking into Robinhood?
So I interned as an engineering intern and then converted full time. I just loved the team, learned a lot.
How did you crack that internship?
So I actually had, my freshman year college floor mate had interned the summer before me. So it was through him that I got the interview. And he very interestingly, he had also joined full time. So he referred me. It was great. I loved it. Had a lot of fun with the team. Decided to stay back. I was on the engineering team. I mean, the company was so small, like the line between engineering and product was blurry for quite a bit of time, but started doing some product work like right after I joined full time, worked on growth, built our referral program. That was sort of my first product.
That was huge back in the day.
Yeah. That was one of the big unlocks for us, like the free stock.
Because it was a variable reward, right?
The free random stock. Yeah, that was a big one. So that was my first like big product as a product manager. Also did a lot of the engineering for that.
Did you guys know variable reward worked? Like, did you hit that off the back or did you have to unlock that over testing?
We tested so much with that product.
Nice.
We kind of had an intuition that free stock was going to be the best, but there were a lot of weird learnings along the way. So we started with cash, like $10. It worked, but it didn't work great. Like the conversion numbers were like okay, not good enough. Then we were like, okay, let's try variable cash. And in this whole meantime, we were trying to figure out how to like mechanically do stocks because it was more operationally complicated. So we did variable cash. So things improved with variable cash, but still wasn't great. Then we launched variable stocks and it worked really, really well. But the thing that we learned was it still wasn't converting well enough to actually make the program work. So the unique thing that we actually learned at the time was the first version of variable stocks. And so many people talk about this product, but they don't talk about this part, was we just put the stock in someone's account. But then we're like, the conversion's not good enough. They're not actually activating. So we added this step to like make customers like affirmatively claim their stock. So they actually have to go in and like say like, I want my stock. It was more delightful than that. And that completely changed the trajectory of conversion because they were like doing an action.
You're activating the user.
To take that. And then we did all sorts of other things. Like now that you owned a stock, we would send you a price movement notification like a week later, or we would send you like a news notification about the stock that you got to kind of get you like in the ownership mentality. And all of that stuff made a big difference. And then the last sort of very unique finding was with variable rewards, you sort of control the expected value of the outcome. So customers actually weren't that sensitive to the expected value. What they really cared about was twofold: that they were getting a stock and that they had some chance of getting a really valuable stock. Yep. So we were able to experiment for a long time with that, and it was huge for us.
Yeah. That's a great example of, I think, why you guys succeed. Going back to the very beginning, right? Is like this crazy amount of iteration and testing on these growth levers. Why are most fintech PMs not doing that? Why are most fintech PMs failing at that?
Are they?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, really? I don't know. I mean, I think we're like fairly successful at it. So I didn't know that people are like failing. Why do you say that?
I don't think many people are doing it. I mean, most people, they launch a referral program. They do 2020 because that's what Amazon or Uber did. And that's like the end of it, you know? They're not like, you just talked about a series of like 10 different successful tests, which tells me there's probably 50 failed tests as well. Yeah. So you did like 60 tests on the program, and you were able to think of very unique hypotheses and kept iterating. Yeah. And that's just your product velocity that you guys have that very few fintechs have.
Yeah. I don't know. I think one thing is like you have to take inspiration from like other companies and like what's working, but you have to like think about what's going to work for your product. And you also have to take whatever someone else is doing with like some grain of salt, because like you can't assume they did everything like perfectly. You know, it's like the same laziness that you have inside the company probably existed at Amazon or Uber too.
Yeah.
So I think specifically with the referral program, our thing was like, we want to give you a unit of this service. Like the insight from Amazon or Uber especially is not that they give you $10. It's that they give you a ride.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so you stretch that further. It's like, what is the ride equivalent of Robinhood? It was a stock. It wasn't $10.
Yep.
So I think you have to dig a little bit deeper than like just what the surface tells you.
Yeah. So you probably hired some PMs from other fintech companies. What advice are you giving them to succeed in fintech?
I think fintech's really unique. You have a broad set of cross-functional partners, probably larger than most other companies or most other like traditional tech companies. So I think the biggest thing is you have to like, the same way you would treat like engineering or design, you have to treat like all your partners, because they are essential to getting the product out and it being successful. So it's the first thing is you have to recognize that you have a broader set of partners, and they're not there to be like blockers. They're there to be a part of the team. They're there to be effective. And that mindset shift is like a really big one. It's not just like engineering, product, and design. There's a lot more involved in shipping product in financial services. And I think that's why you also tend to see some of the ratios of Eng to PM a little bit lower in fintech, because there's just so much more for the PM to do. So I think that's the first thing. I think specifically at Robinhood, it's like pay attention to the design and care deeply about the experience. That's something like everyone resonates with. And then I think for fintech, those are like probably the big things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really getting good at working with these different cross-functional teams. And like you were saying earlier, becoming a little bit of someone who can learn fast. Like
Yeah.
what is the actual core of a legal issue means you need to be able to either with AI as your sparring partner or legal as your sparring partner, get pretty deep into a topic quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. And you have to build intuition for these things. Like, it's never black and white. Oh, it's rarely black and white. Sometimes it's black and white, and then it's really easy to make decisions. But in order to make the best product decision, you got to like understand, like your legal partner needs to understand what you're trying to achieve in the product. And in the same way, you need to understand like what is the legal issue that you are trying to deal with.
Yep.
Or what's the operational issue that you're trying to deal with. Without having that understanding, you'll just talk past each other.
And how do you deal with like building a product? Like what's the philosophy you have of building a product that has real money, real risk, real emotions behind it?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is you have to like really understand like what is it that your product, like what is it that your product is gonna do better than other products out there. So I mean, a lot of the first steps that we do, which I'm sure others do, is like you're building IRAs, go understand all the other retirement accounts on the market. Like, what do they do well? What do they not do well? One thing we have to like think about early is like, what do we want someone to like feel when they use this product? Like, what emotions do we like want to elicit? And I think I'll use retirement as an example. Like, we were like, hey, we want to make the act of saving for retirement feel like really, really special. So it feels like a moment that you connect with. It's a moment you want to like do over and over again. And it's like something that a lot of people are proud of, right?
Yeah.
When they save for retirement. So I think you need to like connect to a certain degree on a like human level of like what are the objectives people are gonna associate with your product. Like with buying a stock, a lot of people remember the first time they bought a stock.
Yeah.
They remember what platform they bought it on. It's a really meaningful moment for a lot of people. So you really want to like pinpoint like what is it that we want you to like feel in that moment. And to me, for like saving for retirement or buying your first stock, I think we want people to feel like happy. We want them to feel like they're doing something like positive and good for themselves. So I think there's like that emotional aspect of it that you have to understand. What is it you want people to feel?
So we've walked through your career story from intern to VP in less than 9 years. What do you think are some of the career habits or the ways you treat your career that's different from others that has enabled you that really rapid success?
Yeah, I think Robinhood I think there's a little bit of luck. Actually, there's probably a lot of luck, like right place, right time. I think there is like, I think the biggest thing is like not being afraid of like the work you made, like not like the detail oriented like grunt work. I think that's like the thing I've always like never shied away from. And I think it builds a really strong degree of like trust with people. Like when a product manager or a product leader like digs in and is like, okay, great, we've got this issue, like let's like deeply understand what's going on, and really digs in to empathize with the other person. Or like if there's like an engineering problem, the PM or the product leader is like there, even if they're just there for like moral support, like those things make a big difference. So it's like always asking how you can help. I mean, obviously having an impact on the business, and then, you know, being like treating I think the one thing that I like to do is like my team is like more than just like the product managers. It's like everyone who works on the brokerage product. They're all like, in a lot of ways, like I like to think of them as my team. And that like, I think builds like, it just like points you to think in a different way, which builds trust with people.
Especially over the long term, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're making, I guess, like decisions that, to use Adam Grant's language, is more like giver than taker.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I'd like other people to say that about me. So
Makes sense. So let's say you had your cousin and he's trying to become you. He's in college. He's saying, Abhishek, I need to find this next company like Robinhood because you just told me right place, right time was a really important part of it.
Yeah.
How do they go about doing that?
I think it's hard, and I got lucky. I think the thing with Robinhood, and I think it's increasingly true with companies today, was it was post product market fit.
Yeah.
So when I was interning, it just felt like, I mean, I definitely drank the Kool-Aid, but it felt like there was some sort of inevitability to the company.
Yeah.
Because customers loved the product. So I think that you've got to find a company that's at product market fit, or like you are confident you can help it find product market fit. And in that case, you're probably joining really early anyways.
Yep.
I think that, and then ideally the company is like responsible. I think one thing that Beju and Vlad did really, really well early on was the company was like lean from day one. And I think they bet on, like, their whole philosophy on talent was betting on people over and over again. So, I mean, we definitely hired a lot of experienced folks, people in the brokerage industry, people from across the industry, but especially early on, they wanted to bet on the talent that was at the company. So that plus like the company's trajectory was like a great recipe.
So look for a company that has product market fit defined as customers just insatiably love it so that you can feel like it has some inevitability of success. And then look for founders that are running it well, they're running it lean and are willing to bet on people.
Yeah, I think the last part's really important. Like,
Okay.
You want to be at a place that's going to invest in you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I look back, like some of the places I worked, ThreadUp, that's where the company I went through that IPO'd, the founders were just always there investing in their people. Like our CEO.
Which one was that?
ThreadUp?
ThreadUp.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those similar era as Robinhood,
Yeah.
I think 2021 IPO. So, well, Abhishek, we could do another 90 minutes.
Yeah.
That is our time. If people want to get in touch or learn more, how can they do that?
Yeah. I mean, feel free to reach out. I've got my Twitter account. I've got my LinkedIn account. Feel free to reach out.
All right. Twitter or LinkedIn. There you go, guys. That's how to get in touch with him. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everyone. So if you want to learn more about how to shift to this way of working, check out our full conversation on Apple or Spotify podcasts. And if you want the actual documents that we showed, the tools and frameworks and public links, be sure to check out my newsletter post with all of the details. Finally, thank you so much for watching. It would really mean a lot if you could make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, following on Apple or Spotify podcasts, and leave us a review on those platforms. That really helps grow the podcast and support our work so that we can do bigger and better productions. I'll see you in the next one.